Oh, it's good to see you, Commander players. This is Jumbo Commander, and today we have Saskia. But not just ordinary Saskia. This is the deck that we're giving away in celebration of reaching 3,000 subscribers. Reaching 3,000 subscribers has been really great, and I want to thank all of you. But I want to thank one specific person by rewarding them with a Saskia upgraded Commander 2016 deck. So if all you care about is seeing if you are that lucky winner, go ahead and click somewhere on this screen. It'll take you to the announcement. But for everyone else, we're going to go into detail about what we take out of this Saskia precon and what we add in to make it a great Commander deck. All right, so this is the Saskia deck that we're going to do. You can see that it's a little bit damaged right here, but that's okay, because we're going to take it apart and we're going to upgrade it. All right, so here's the Saskia deck. There's Saskia right there leading the helm of this deck. And then we have the three partner commanders. Now, these are very interesting. They're a little bit underwhelming. I don't think that they give us a lot of identity to the deck. Really, what we're going to be looking at is trying to find out what this deck is trying to do and then find out how we can support it. Okay. The first thing I can find out is that, look, they're going to be making some saprolings. And by the way, double-sided tokens that have saprolings on both sides, that's not very effective. All right, so it looks like we want to go a few different ways. The first one will be basically making a lot of tokens because this guy makes saprolings, this guy makes saprolings. Let's see here. More and more saprolings. This guy makes saprolings. There's a lot of saproling makers in here. This guy pumps saprolings. This guy makes saprolings, pumps saprolings. Ooh. This guy does a lot of damage when saprolings come into play. Pumps saprolings, makes them. So this is kind of a go wide. These are all lands. I'm going to put the lands aside for right now. Bloop, lands, you can go up there. Ooh, a Quetzalcoatl. I like that. Okay. So we have a lot of cards that make saprolings and pump saprolings. Okay. So I think what we want to do is keep with some of those thematic elements, but get rid of some of the others. For example, all of these saproling makers, with the exception of this guy, these are all really mediocre cards. The Hermit, Necrogenesis, the Selesnya Guildmage, and this other Guildmage, like they're just not that impressive at all. Actually, neither is this other saproling maker, the partner commander. If we're going to be making tokens, I feel like we want to be really making tokens. Or if we're going to go big and get damage in, we want to really go big and get damage in. None of this, I don't know, mediocre creatures. I think I want to make this deck really flexible. So I'm going to want to put in some big creatures that can get through and deal a ton of damage, but also reinforce this token strategy, but make it better. I mean, better than putting like 1 or 2 tokens onto the battlefield. Also, we're going to be flooding the board with creatures. So cards that are low impact, that only add a couple of mana to our mana pool, those are really underwhelming. Those are cuts. But cards that put lands straight onto the battlefield, like this Secura Tribe Elder, those are good. Because this will get us the land onto the battlefield and won't be a liability in himself. Yeah, this is another one that just adds a mana to your mana pool. No, we're already investing a ton into the battlefield. Same thing with this. We have so much going into the battlefield, we don't want to have our mana base also be subject to board wipes and removal. There's a few that just don't really have a spot, like these X spells. We're not ramping particularly hard. We're just going after the guy. So Lavalanche and Clan Defiance, although they could be included, those are an easy cut. Having a few cards that go big, like this Mana Gorger Hydra and Taurian Mauler, can be really powerful. Getting the protection from this Dauntless Escort is going to be really good. Ooh, another card that goes big with tokens, Mirror Entity, very strong as well. And another one of my favorites is Influencing Combat, this Brutal Horde Chief. We're going to be playing on that strategy as well. We have a few new cards that were particularly interesting that I definitely want to keep in. This Stonehoof Chieftain, this Primeval Protector, the Conqueror's Flail. We'll see if those are any good. Again, this getting lands onto the battlefield strategy, this Rampant Growth and Farseek, that's exactly what I want. Where's my Secure Tri-Builder? I'm going to put it over here. Okay, I'm going to go into Fast Forward, and I'm going to break down each of these categories, and you can see where I'm putting my priorities. Alright, so this is a quick breakdown as I've organized some of these cards. Not all of them are going to be in focus. Not all of them I'm expecting you guys to be able to read. But I just wanted you to look at the approximate numbers. Okay, we have a very cool Sunforger package here, and we have a lot of utility over on this end. Okay, we might not need one this large, but things like double strike and tapping down your opponents, that sounds really good. Maybe we'll see. I like the idea of having card draw in this area as well. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 cards that don't go along with this creature combat strategy. I don't know if this will cut it. So we might need to make a few cuts in this area specifically. Okay, the protection area. Okay, we only have one card that kind of protects our whole team, which is Dauntless Escort. I know Boros Charm does something similar as well, so that might stay in as well because it has 2 different categories. Okay, we might need to think about what happens if we get board wiped. Okay, then we have card draw up here. Again, very weak. Something like Abzan Charm. Okay, also kind of goes over into this card draw category, but again, it's a very low category. We might want to pump that category up a little bit. Okay, going big. We have some cards that can go big. I like going big in this strategy a little bit more because we're less susceptible to board wipes. We can play a single threat and then make them answer that threat and then play another threat. Or get a threat so big and dangerous that then we play Saskia and finish off the game. Token producers. I think I cut most of the token producers. Ugh. So I'm going to need to put in more token producers if I have things like Thunderfoot Baloth and Beastmaster Ascension and, you know, putting +1/+1 counters and all this other stuff. I mean, this is basically combat support cards, and some of these combat support cards go way better with tokens than they do with gigantic creatures. So that might be an area that I need to improve upon. If I cut so many token producers, I need to add more. Then we have this sort of ramp package over here. This is actually pretty good. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 pieces of ramp. I like that a lot. I think that I might add a few more, especially ones that do a little bit more fixing, but I feel like that's a good, solid connection right there. Also, this Sylvan Reclamation can help with some fixing. It's off the screen. Sylvan Reclamation right there. Okay. Now, I know this is kind of a disorganized way of looking at it, but I want you to be able to see kind of what happened and what my strategy is for where I need to fill stuff in. So let's take a look at some of the cards that I wanted to fill in to round out this deck. Among the added cards, I've kept to 2 strategies. Supporting tokens, that's represented by Gahiji the Honored One, and supporting big, crazy fatties. That's represented by Xenagos, God of Revels. And I haven't picked one or the other exclusively because I want this deck to be very well-rounded and be a lot of fun. And sometimes it's fun to go wide, and sometimes it's fun to just go big and crush someone. Now, before we start crushing people, we have to shore up a few gaps. I added Cultivate and Kadama's Reach because those are great green cards that will fix your mana and ramp you a little bit. I've also decided to add Solemn Simulacrum because it's great. Mina and Den Wildborn because it can ramp you and give trample. Very key to give big creatures trample in this deck. Awesome inclusion because it kind of fits multiple strategies. I love it. But then also I took out a few artifact ramps and replaced them with creature-based ramp like Wood Elves and Farhaven Elf. I decided to include a little bit of a creature combat-based package like Anger. Okay, Anger is great because you want to be able to immediately attack with all your creatures, and also Brawn giving trample can be very important as well. But also what makes it a package is Jared's Orders. You can search your library for 2 creature cards, put one of them to your hand and the other into your graveyard. That means that with just Jared's Orders, you can tutor up a creature and make sure all of your guys have haste or trample. A really neat package. We're running a very creature-heavy strategy, which means things are going to die, and I'm going to want to get them back. So Whip of Erebos is great for reactivating those dead creatures, getting those enter the battlefield abilities and effects, but also you can give your creatures lifelink, and when you're doing so much damage, maybe doubling it up with Saskia, gaining double life can, I don't know, be really fun. I like Whip of Erebos a lot. But also getting some value from your graveyard and pumping up your team is Martial's Anthem. You can get a lot of mana and then you can recur cards from the graveyard. Now, this is not card draw, but this can be something to do with your mana in the late game. And we've seen that card draw and, mana sinks were a problem for this deck. Now it's time to add one of the fattest of fatties, Hydra Omnivore. Hydra Omnivore goes crazy with Saskia. It just needs to be in here. Whenever it deals combat damage to opponent, it deals that much damage to each other opponent, and then it deals all that damage through Saskia to... it's just out of control. What also makes it out of control is Blade of Selves. Blade of Selves on any one of your non-legendary creatures is spectacular. Giving it Myriad so it hits everyone, getting those enter the battlefield abilities. It's great. Blade of Selves even on a Secure Tribe Elder or a stupid Farhaven Elf is excellent. And if you put it on a Hydra Omnivore, that's just game ending. So this Myriad effect is very, very cool. Which means that you might want to go a little bit deeper into Myriad, but I'm not including Herald of the Host. We have too many creatures packed into this deck. So for a little bit of card draw, we added some abilities that make you become the Monarch. And Regal Behemoth is excellent because it's just a big fat lizard too, draws you a card, and can give you some mana ramp. It's a very cool all-in-one creature lizard effect that I've been really happy with. But also Zendikar Resurgent gives you that mana ramp, but also you have tons of creatures. So being able to get that card draw with every creature you play is going to be very important. Let's talk about a few high-impact token producers, like Hornet Queen. A Blade of Selves on Hornet Queen is also insane, but this is an army in a can right here. And speaking of which, let's go for the classic, Avenger of Zendikar. You can't have a token deck without going wide with Avenger. So I've cut back on some of the spell-based control elements and tried to add some creature-based control elements. Bane of Progress is great at destroying your opponent's boards. It goes crazy, and yes, it does hit some of your own stuff too. It could eat a Soul Ring or a Zendikar Resurgent, but trust me, when you drop Bane of Progress, you will need him, and he will get huge. And remember, that's one of our strategies, getting creatures to be huge and relevant. Our other strategy is going wide, and Martial Coup does an excellent job of putting a ton of soldiers onto the battlefield. Now you're thinking, we're a creature-based strategy, why do we want to have board wipes? Well, sometimes Commander games get out of control, and we need a way out. We need to find some way to just control the board, because also, we have to win through creature combat. And if they have some sort of crazy lock, we might need a board wipe. And what better way to wipe the board than to immediately repopulate it with soldiers so that we can keep attacking? One of the most impactful cards I could imagine is Molten Primordial. Being able to, on a creature, steal something from everyone, removing blockers from the equation, and slam into one opponent. Oh, maybe even with Saskia on the board, doing crazy amounts of damage. I mean, Molten Primordial is so powerful, such a splashy effect. And it's not the only good Primordial. Sepulchral Primordial is also excellent. You have a lot of ways to get rid of their creatures, and they're going to be throwing creatures into creature combat, so let's take them for ourselves. Also, Intimidate is a very relevant keyword if we're trying to get damage through. If you remember that Brutal Horde Chief I mentioned, I said that we want to be influencing combat, and what creature cards do that better than the two Odrics? They give our creatures crazy keywords, which we have tons of, and influence creature combat like crazy. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to get our damage through. Grenzo Havoc Razor accomplishes two things: card draw, which we're weak on, and also getting blockers out of the way with Goad. It'll spread the damage around and get blockers out of the way. This is exactly the card we need in this deck. Now, we're throwing damage around like crazy in this deck, so there's no surprise we might want to include Dictate of the Twin Gods. Basically, it doubles all damage. That's insane, and in this deck, we can get up to insane numbers. Just be careful because, you know, it goes to everyone, so you might just kill yourself with this guy. But one thing that's even better than that is Gisela. She doubles it to everyone else, but halves it to you. Oh, so great. And is a 5/5 first striking flying angel. So she's pretty amazing on her own. I've also decided to take a look at a few of the lands in here, and one that I desperately think this deck needs is Kesegul Run. Giving your creatures trample and pumping them up, just make sure that your damage can get through. It's fantastic. I'm also going to take a look at a few other of the lands, maybe tweak the mana base a little bit. I know that I added a lot of green in here, a lot of double greens, a lot of triple greens, so I think I'll, customize it a little bit, give a more ability to play those green cards early, because those green cards will fix the mana in this deck. And the winner of this Saskia deck in celebration of 3,000 subscribers is Nicholas Rudolph. Thank you so much, Nicholas, and condolences to everyone who did not win. I will have more giveaways, so stay tuned. And this is kind of a celebration. Thank you, everyone, for subscribing and liking and commenting and sharing my channel. I couldn't do it without you guys. Nicholas, or anyone else actually, send me an email at jumbocommander@gmail.com, and I'd love to chat with you. I'd love to look at your decks, or if you're Nicholas, I'd love to send you your very own commander deck. This is Jumbo Commander, thanking everyone for watching. I hope you guys have a great day. Bye-bye.